a very easy death, and such as he himself had always wished for. For as often as he heard that any person had died quickly and without pain, he wished for himself and his friends the like euthanasian and easy death, for that was the word he made use of. He betrayed but one symptom, before he breathed his last, of being delirious, which was this: he was all on a sudden much frightened, and complained that he was carried away by 40 men. But this was rather a presage than any delirium, for precisely that number of soldiers belonging to the praetorian cohort carried out his corpse. He expired in the same room in which his father Octavius had died, when the two Sextus, Pompey and Apuleius, were consuls, upon the 14th of the calends of September, the 19th of August, at the 9th hour of the day, being 76 years of age, wanting only 35 days. His remains were carried by the magistrates of the municipal towns and colonies, from Nola to Bovile, and in the night time, because of the season of the year. During the intervals the body lay in some basilica, or great temple, of each town. At Bovile it was met by the equestrian order, who carried it to the city and deposited it in the vestibule of his own house. The Senate proceeded with so much zeal in the arrangement of his funeral, and paying honor to his memory, that, among several other proposals, some were for having the funeral procession made through the triumphal gate, preceded by the image of Victory, which is in the Senate house, and the children of highest rank and of both sexes singing the funeral dirge. Others proposed that on the day of the funeral they should lay aside their gold rings and wear rings of iron, and others that his bones should be collected by the priests of the principal colleges. One likewise proposed to transfer the name of August to September, because he was born in the latter but died in the former. Another moved that the whole period of time from his birth to his death should be called the Augustan age, and be inserted in the calendar under that title. But at last it was judged proper to be moderate in the honors paid to his memory. 2 funeral orations were pronounced in his praise, one before the temple of Julius by Tiberius, and the other before the rostra under the old ships by Drusus, Tiberius' son. The body was then carried upon the shoulders of senators into the Campus Martius, and there burnt. A man of praetorian rank affirmed upon oath that he saw his spirit ascend from the funeral pile to heaven. The most distinguished persons of the equestrian order, barefooted and with their tunics loose, gathered up his relics and deposited them in the mausoleum which had been built in his 6th consulship, between the Flaminian Way and the bank of the Tiber, at which time likewise he gave the groves and walks about it for the use of the people. He had made a will, a year and 4 months before his death, upon the 3rd of the nones of April, the 11th of April, in the consulship of Lucius Plancus and Caius Silius. It consisted of 2 skins of parchment, written partly in his own hand and partly by his freedmen, Polybius and Hilarion, and had been committed to the custody of the Vestal Virgins, by whom it was now produced, with 3 codicils under seal, as well as the will. All these were opened and read in the Senate. He appointed as his direct heirs Tiberius for 2/3 of his estate, and Livia for the other third, both of whom he desired to assume his name. The heirs in remainder were Drusus, Tiberius' son, for 1/3, and Germanicus with his 3 sons for the residue. In the 3rd place, failing them, were his relations and several of his friends. He left in legacies to the Roman people 40 millions of sesterces, to the tribes 3,500,000, to the praetorian troops 1,000 each man, to the city cohorts 500, and to the legions and soldiers 300 each, which several sums he ordered to be paid immediately after his death, having taken due care that the money should be ready in his exchequer. For the rest he ordered different times of payment. In some of his bequests he went as far as 20,000 sesterces, for the payment of which he allowed a 12-month, alleging for this procrastination the scantiness of his estate, and declaring that not more than 150 millions of sesterces would come to his heirs, notwithstanding that during the 20 preceding years he had received in legacies from his friends the sum of 1,400 millions, almost the whole of which, with his 2 paternal estates and others which had been left him, he had spent in the service of the state. He left orders that the two Julias, his daughter and granddaughter, if anything happened to them, should not be buried in his tomb. With regard to the three codicils before mentioned, in one of them he gave orders about his funeral. Another contained a summary of his acts, which he intended should be inscribed on brazen plates and placed in front of his mausoleum. In the third he had drawn up a concise account of the state of the empire, the number of troops enrolled, what money there was in the treasury, the revenue and arrears of taxes, to which were added the names of the freedmen and slaves from whom the several accounts might be taken. End of Caesar Augustus.